On a spring morning in Manhattan, 72-year-old Maddie Parker, a black woman, stepped into one of New York City's newest exclusive cafes, seeking a brief reprieve from the chilly streets. However, what she hoped would be a moment of warmth quickly turned into a public spectacle of cruelty and prejudice, thanks to the owner's icy glare and venomous words. Humiliated in front of an indifferent crowd of patrons, Maddie endured the ordeal with quiet dignity. But amidst the sea of averted gazes and the oppressive silence, someone of significant influence witnessed the entire event unfold. What transpired next would not only shake the foundation of the establishment, but also capture the attention of millions around the globe, forever altering Maddie's life. The crisp spring air stung Maddie Parker's cheeks as she walked along the bustling sidewalks of New York City. At 72, she had experienced countless spring days in Manhattan, yet this one felt particularly biting. The sky hung heavy and gray, promising rain, while a steady breeze scattered pollen through the air. Maddie pulled her light jacket tighter against her slender frame, its thin material providing little defense against the unexpected chill. Beneath the jacket, her well-worn turtleneck sweater offered minimal additional warmth, leaving her vulnerable to the penetrating breeze. Each step on the uneven pavement was a careful challenge as her arthritis flared with every movement. A quick glance at her watch confirmed the time, 12:45 p.m. The ever-present reminder of her medication schedule lingered in her thoughts, a routine she had long since embraced as part of her daily life. Turning a corner, Maddie's gaze fell upon a sleek new storefront at the base of a glass-fronted office tower. The cafe, adorned with vibrant floral arrangements, stood out against the muted tones of the city street. Ribbons and banners proclaimed its grand opening, with congratulatory messages from various families and businesses. Pausing for a moment, Maddie considered stepping inside. The pollen was beginning to irritate her throat and eyes, and the thought of a warm refuge was appealing. A second glance at her watch, 12:50 p.m., reassured her that she still had time before her critical 1 p.m. medication. With a small nod to herself, Maddie pushed open the cafe's heavy glass door and stepped inside. The interior, with its polished surfaces, muted earth tones, and modern minimalist design, was inviting. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods filled the air as soft jazz melodies played from unseen speakers. Maddie scanned the room, observing a mix of patrons, most of whom appeared to be professionals from nearby office buildings, engrossed in laptops or low-toned business discussions over steaming cups. She found a round booth near the back and slid into its plush leather seat, sighing softly as she shrugged off her jacket. Her mind turned instinctively to her careful routines. Living with Addison's disease required strict adherence to medication schedules, hydration monitoring, and salt intake. Even a seemingly simple cafe order had to be considered in the context of her condition. A cheerful young waitress approached, her notepad ready. "Welcome to Whitaker's. Can I get you started with something to drink?" Maddie returned her smile warmly. "Yes, dear. I'd like a cup of hot water, please, and perhaps something light and sweet. Do you have any fruit tarts?" The waitress nodded enthusiastically. "We have a lovely selection of mini tarts, lemon, raspberry, or mixed berry. Which one would you prefer?" "The mixed berry sounds perfect," Maddie replied. As the waitress turned to leave, Maddie called after her gently. "Oh, and could I trouble you for an extra warm towel?" "Of course, ma'am. I'll be right back with your order," the waitress replied with a smile. Reaching into her purse, Maddie retrieved a small pill bottle, a compact mirror, and a tube of lipstick, placing them on the table. The routine was second nature: check her appearance, touch up her makeup, and take her medication with a sip of water. These small actions gave her a sense of control, a moment of normalcy amidst the challenges of managing a chronic condition. Another glance at her watch, 12:58 p.m., brought a small smile to her face. Right on schedule. For Maddie, these little victories were a testament to her resilience, even in the face of life's challenges. Relaxing into the booth, she allowed herself to enjoy the cafe's soothing atmosphere, a welcome change from her usual haunts. Closing her eyes briefly, she let the soft music and gentle hum of conversation wash over her. Her moment of peace was shattered by the sound of a pointed throat clearing. Opening her eyes, Maddie expected to see the waitress with her order, but instead found herself face to face with a man whose expression radiated hostility. Startled but calm, Maddie looked up at the tall, lean man before her. His sharp features and crisp white shirt, paired with a dark tie, marked him as a staff member, but his demeanor was far from welcoming. "Can I help you?" Maddie asked, her voice steady despite the sudden tension in the air. The man's lips curled into a sneer. "I think the real question is, what do you think you're doing here, ma'am?" His voice dripped with disdain. Taken aback, Maddie blinked, struggling to process his overt hostility. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm just here to have a quick snack and some water." The man's sneer deepened as his gaze swept over her, his disdain palpable. "Your server mentioned you requested an extra warm towel," he said mockingly. "Well, we don't cater to special requests." Maddie nodded, maintaining her composure. "That's fine, sir. No problem. I'll just have the pastry and hot water then." Her attempt to defuse the situation was met with a harsh, barking laugh. "A pastry? Dressed like that? With your kind of skin colors?" His tone was laced with venom. "Grandma, this isn't some charity kitchen." The words hit Maddie like a slap, but she straightened in her seat, drawing on decades of experience dealing with prejudice. "Excuse me, sir," she said firmly. "I can pay for my order. Now, I'd like to speak to the manager, please." The man's sneer widened into an outright grin as he tapped the name tag pinned to his chest. "James Whittaker, manager and owner. At your service," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Maddie took a deep breath, willing herself to remain composed. "Mr. Whittaker," she began, her tone calm but resolute, "I don't understand the reason for this behavior. I am a paying customer, just like anyone else here." Whittaker leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a menacing whisper. "Listen, your kind isn't welcome here. You'll scare away our real customers, the professionals, the rich people making business deals. This isn't a greasy spoon or a dive bar. We cater to a certain clientele, and you're not it." Maddie's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to let him see her flinch. "Mr. Whittaker," she replied evenly, "this is your establishment, but I have the same right to be here as anyone else. I'm simply here to take my medication and have a light snack. There's no need for hostility." Whittaker's eyes narrowed, his voice laced with mockery. "Medication? What are you, some kind of junkie? That's all we need." "No, sir," Maddie replied, her patience wearing thin but her tone remaining measured. "I have a medical condition called Addison's disease. It requires strict timing for my medication. All I need is to take my pills with some water, and then I'll be on my way." Whittaker waved her explanation away with a dismissive hand. "Save your excuses. I don't care if you've got a disease or not." Though her tone stayed measured, her patience was wearing thin. "I have Addison's disease," Maddie explained. "It requires strict timing for my medication. All I need is to take my pills with some water, and then I'll leave." Whittaker dismissed her explanation with a wave of his hand. "Save the excuses. I don't care if you've got 3 heads under that tacky sweater," he sneered. "You're not welcome here. There's an older cafe downtown where your kind usually goes. Take your condition there." Anger and hurt welled up in Maddie's chest. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the young waitress reappeared, carefully balancing a tray with Maddie's order. Time seemed to slow as Whittaker turned toward the waitress. His movements were deliberate, calculated. In one smooth motion, he intercepted the tray, his fingers curling tightly around its edges. "Sir, what are you?" the waitress began, but her words were cut off as Whittaker sharply pivoted. With a flick of his wrists, the contents of the tray went flying. The cup of hot water arced through the air, its contents spraying in a scalding fan. The small plate carrying the berry tart followed, spinning like a discus. Maddie barely had time to raise her hands in a futile attempt to shield herself. The hot water hit first, splashing across her arms and face. Pain erupted, leaving angry red marks on her skin. The tart followed, smearing purple-red filling across her pink sweater. A cry of shock and pain escaped Maddie's lips as the cafe fell silent. All eyes turned to the unfolding scene. Whitaker's face twisted into a mockery of concern. "Oh my, how clumsy of me," he said, his voice laced with false sincerity. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Your appearance must have distracted me." Maddie's arms throbbed with pain, the redness intensifying by the second. She managed to whisper, "Please, I need a medical kit. Some ice, at least." The fake concern melted from Whitaker's face, replaced by a sneer. He leaned in and muttered coldly, "A medical kit for a little spill? Don't be so dramatic, old woman. If you need to clean up, use the restroom." The young waitress stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. "Mr. Whitaker, shouldn't we get back to work?" Whitaker snapped, cutting her off. "And bring a mop. Our valued customers shouldn't have to look at this mess." Maddie's hands trembled as she reached for her purse, desperate to salvage what she could. Her gaze fell on the pill bottle, now partially soaked, with water seeping inside. Her heart sank as she realized the expensive medication was likely ruined. Fighting back tears of pain and humiliation, Maddie clutched the damaged pill bottle and struggled to her feet. Each step felt like an insurmountable effort as she made her way toward the restroom, leaving a trail of water droplets in her wake. Once inside, Maddie leaned against the door, her breath coming in shaky gasps. Though the encounter had lasted mere minutes, it felt like hours. She glanced down at her arms, wincing at the angry red marks left by the hot water. Her pink sweater, a longtime favorite, was now stained with water and smeared berry filling. But it was the pill bottle in her trembling hand that truly made her heart ache. The small, white tablets represented more than just medication. They were her lifeline, carefully budgeted for and meticulously taken. Now, because of one man's cruelty, that lifeline was in jeopardy. Steeling herself, Maddie turned to the mirror. Her reflection stared back, disheveled and shaken. But beyond the fear in her eyes was a glint of the determination she had honed through years of hardship. With a deep breath, Maddie squared her shoulders. Despite the pain and indignity, she would face this, as she had faced so much before. First, though, she needed to assess the damage and figure out her next move.